Hey Brainiacs, Max von Neumann here. Today, we're talking about how to be successful in algebra. When taking an algebra class, there are three elements, three things you must do to be successful. The three things relate to time. When it comes to time, we generally think of past, present, and future. And we know logically the past affected our present, and our present will affect our future. So the first element to success is based off of our past. Essentially, do you have the prerequisite for algebra? It is important in mathematics to start at the right level. If you don't have a good grasp of all pre-algebra concepts, don't push on to algebra. Don't think you can be thrown in the deep end of the swimming pool and somehow you'll magically swim. It doesn't work that way. What will happen is that you will figuratively thrash around and then start sinking until someone throws you a life preserver. The life preserver represents dropping the class. There are many placement tests you can take to identify topics you have mastery in and topics you have weaknesses in. Only sign up for algebra if the placement test identifies you as an algebra candidate. Don't push go if you barely make the algebra cutoff. The college I taught at for years instituted a 3 strikes you're out rule because for years students would fail and retake the class over and over again. The students always thought the next time would be different. A better rule would be if you fail or drop out, then you have to take and pass with a B or better the prerequisite class before you could retry algebra. Now, when we think of the present, it is reflected in the next ideas of early and often. Now, many people ask me, why don't you discuss the three elements for other classes like calculus? These elements will work for other math classes, but I focus on algebra because algebra is usually the first class that starts the hatred for mathematics in some people. And these three elements will help to turn that hatred into a great fondness at an early stage of a person's mathematical expedition. After a year of using the elements, they will become habit, which, without any effort, you will use in future classes, perhaps in your future calculus endeavor. So the two ideas you want to keep in your mind as somewhat of a mantra are the words early and often. Both of these points are related to time, as we have said. And as someone who wants to conquer algebra, you must be convinced that it's going to take time for concepts to sink in. A lot of time. Depending on many variables, one algebra concept could take a few hours to master, all the way up to a few weeks. Note, I said mastered, which means that you have a deep understanding of the topic at hand. When I say many variables as they relate to concept mastery, that could be things such as motivation level, access to good learning materials, all the way up to the effectiveness of your teacher. A great teacher or a really good math book could really reduce learning time in mathematics. So why the mantra early and often? Because if you're walking around town and there's a little voice in your head saying early and often,
Max, don't forget to do your algebra early and often.
Man, that voice can be really relentless. Anyway, that voice in your head is a reminder of how valuable time is. Time comes from the summation of a bunch of minutes. that will make you an expert in algebra. So let's begin with the first of many levers of time, early. Why early? Early does a couple of things. It gets our mind thinking about the topic even before the teacher covers it. It gives us a chance to think about meaning before process. We can really ponder a concept and think deeply without pressure about what is going on before we learn steps or the process that manufactures solutions. Knowing why we are doing something makes the process easier. We often think of working on algebra as binary, meaning we either are sitting at a table studying or we are doing something else. But if you take the time to read and research and maybe even look at some example problems a few days before the teacher covers it, your mind will consciously and subconsciously begin organizing abstract thoughts, even while doing something unrelated to math. Your mind, once introduced to a problem or complicated idea, will on the back burner of your brain try to complete the puzzle. Your brain, by nature, is like moths to a flame. It will try to make connections even when you're not thinking about the puzzle. This even extends into your sleep. Part of the idea of starting early is that knowledge takes time to seep into your brain. And the earlier we start, the longer you have to chew on the elements of the concept. Over time, your mind will digest the mathematical concept. Another part of early is that you could really push the idea, as I did in college. I would often find out the book that was being used a semester ahead. So in spring, if I knew I was going to take a class like differential equations, I'd find the book that was going to be used in the fall, and I would buy it to study in the summer. I'd usually be 2 chapters ahead before the first day of class. The last note on early is that starting your homework within an hour after the end of your math class is very effective because the material you covered is fresh in your head. If you run into problems, you can jump on those problems quickly by researching or going to your teacher's office. I remember way back when going straight to the library right after my calculus class. I'd actually get a quick bite to eat first and then hop on those calculus problems. I'd have the majority of the problems done before I had to start work that day. By the time I got to work, my mind was mulling on the problems I didn't finish. During my lunch break, I'd grab my book from my car and attempt to finish up my homework. It was a nice feeling to know my homework was mostly complete before most people had even gotten started on their first problem. Anyway, that pretty much does it for early. Moral of the story, when you plan to take an algebra class, get started early, because early builds momentum and self-confidence. Now for the often part. The more often you work on algebra, the more minutes you accumulate. Those minutes accumulate into hours. Often implies an hour here, another half hour there. Working on a problem for 10 minutes at a bus stop adds to your experience as a mathematician. The more problems you do, the greater you get. Your goal is to log in an incredible number of problems into your done file. Note that breaking up your study time is generally more effective in combating cognitive fatigue. Mathematical marathons consisting of a 5-hour study session usually does not build a great mathematician as a beginner. Breaking up your time frames allows you to focus like a laser beam. Keep in mind that the lion's share of your time needs to be active in the sense you're talking to yourself and asking yourself questions. Active means you are engaged with the material, and if someone stopped you at that moment in time, you'd be able to tell them what you were doing and where your next thought was moving. Timers are a good tool for that, but that would be another video. Just be honest with yourself. If you were daydreaming for 5 minutes, then that doesn't count as doing math. Many of times, I'd see a group of kids in a coffee shop, so-called studying. After 2 hours of yakking, checking messages, and looking for materials, the study time they completed amounted to no more than 20 minutes. We can do better if we want to be our best. Anyway, it's true, mathematicians can work straight for 10 plus hours and even forget to eat. But that's because they've built up their concentration power. For me, the sun could come up and go down, and I wouldn't know it if the mathematical challenge is interesting enough. The math for a mathematician energizes them. It doesn't wear them down. Even though some of your often will be random and passive, make most of your time to work on algebra scheduled. Scheduled time forms a habit that will carry over to future math classes. Try to work on your math at the same time and place throughout the whole year, while also randomly working extra hours to increase your mathematical muscle. Extra hours could include watching videos in a relaxing manner to boost hours. Remember, a relaxed mind is best for absorbing information. Researching history behind your topic or peculiar ways to process a problem to the solution during your extra hours, if done enough, can use the neuroscientific ideas of brain soaking and garden path theory. Together, if you brain soak with massive mathematical content that is mostly within your understanding, then garden path will complete the picture of the details you don't know through natural probabilistic means. Many times, the newly learned material gets anchored to the older known material. Last thing, when it's your scheduled time, make sure your study place has no distractions and you are softly playing alpha and beta waves. Use the alpha waves when you are reading or researching an algebraic topic, and use the beta waves when you are trying to solve problems, when you're trying to crack that code. When learning algebra, you want all possible weapons at your disposal. In a future video, I will put up a long session of alpha waves to study to and a long session of beta waves to do your homework to. That does it for today. Don't forget to hit the like button if you're feeling motivated to attack algebra. And I hope to be seeing you on this channel early and often.
Before exiting our spacecraft, be sure to strike the like, subscribe, comment, and share